Yeah, so what did you think about the film Oppenheimer as a whole?
I felt like it was very insightful. I thought it was very cool seeing Albert Einstein being depicted. Never thought I'd see that in the movie.
How do you feel about the cinematography, special effects, and like that?
It was really cool. It was very practical, but also like very traditional. I love that they stuck to like film traditions, and it has like a strong sense of like artistry behind it.
You know what's interesting, I thought, when they showed the bomb going off, total quietness, and then later on the sound.
Yeah, that's because when stuff like that happens, like, so the speed of light's a lot faster than the speed of sound, so you're gonna see things way before you like hear it or feel it. So that the whole like delay was very realistic. I liked it.
You know, the whole story itself is a very complex story. The whole idea of a nuclear bomb ending the war in Japan. You have the idea that you end the war, and the idea that people are saved in the sense that it's much faster, but then the destruction of the bomb itself. Did you feel like that was something depicted very well in the film?
Yeah, I felt like they did a great job.
Yeah, the idea of like the whole idea, there really was a very complex story about the whole situation, about what it was like in World War II, and about the whole idea that being like like as a scientist, I guess the idea of whether your theories actually work more than what the practicality is.
I feel like with great power comes great responsibility, and if I was in his footsteps, I don't know if I would have done anything different. But for him to come up with a theory on how to create like an atomic bomb, and then actually like go through with it is very admirable.
I also think it was very interesting the way they started out with different. And sometimes he was a hero, sometimes he's a villain. It's very interesting how he changes the character throughout the story in some ways.
The moral gray area of creating a mass weapon of destruction is probably very daunting. People are gonna view you all sorts of ways, you know what I mean? It's kind of like walking around with an AR rifle in America. Like some people are gonna be like, yeah, you got a right to do it, and some people are gonna be like, look at that asshole with a gun.
As a whole, I think it was a very interesting movie again, and I would say that it's the type of movie you should see because it gives you a lot of insight. So what do you think overall of the movie?
I thought it was fantastic. I thought as far as like how slow it went, the beginning's pretty slow, but as it ramped up, as soon as they get to New Mexico, that's when it really hits the stride, I think. The ending's like a knockout punch. Visually, it's also amazing. It was. I have to like digest it. It was amazing.
See, I felt that they didn't have to have so much dialogue with the court case. I think they could have done things a little bit more subliminal, been more of an impact myself.
I think they could have shaved a few minutes off and still gotten the same point. It did go on for a while, but I think having the court case end in such a big climax makes it worth it because it ramps up to it, if that makes sense.
I think if you showed him actually like maybe losing a house or getting out of that, losing his place, business, it might have been maybe more impact than the whole discussion about it. I think it was a very interesting dialogue because what I liked about it, really liked about it, is it didn't make it all black and white. It gave a lot of different perspectives, right, which I think was really good. You get a whole big perspective about nuclear, about fusion, about all this stuff. You get different perspectives of how people had seen it then and see it now, which I think was very good. It didn't make you have to like. It didn't seem like a preachy story, which is good to say.
Yeah, I agree. That's fantastic. I thought it was great.
Do you have any negatives about the movie? And then, what were your favorite parts?
Christopher Nolan movies have kind of a stereotype about having bad sound design, especially with dialogue. I think this is better than Tenet, for example, his last movie, but there's definitely parts. It's very complicated, sophisticated talk about science and technology combined with it being very fast-paced dialogue combined with the sound design overwhelming. So all those things together make it kind of difficult to understand parts of it.
Yes.
Which is a gripe. And also I mentioned how slow the beginning is, but I think technically there's very few negatives about it.
Do you think if they had more scenes about the war actually going on and showed it would may have a bigger impact? Even they didn't show anything with the Nazis, anything like that. Give a little bit of background, a little bit more, would have had a bigger impact.
On the one hand, I think that showing just even a couple shots of the war happening would have hammered it home. But also maybe the point is that Oppenheimer doesn't get to see what's going on. He just has to know what's happening, which I think is an interesting part of it, rather than what most movies would go with, which is showing what's going on, rather than what he was doing at the time, which is having to imagine how bad it was.
You know what I really liked about the story? I liked how they really made Oppenheimer not good, not bad, but a human, and his flaws and his strengths. And I thought it was very interesting. They did that.
I agree.
So overall, from 1 to 4, how many stars would you give this film?
1 to 4? Maybe a 4. I wouldn't call it perfect, but I mean, definitely fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Did you see Barbie?
Nope, not yet.
Don't see it.
Don't see it.
Totally no
So
character
far,
development.
Oppenheimer seems like it's going to be a hard mark to beat.
I'm gonna see it. I'm excited. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.